Hello, I'm coming at you with another book call because I have a problem. This is actually hopefully going to be my last book haul for a little bit because I'm trying to stop buying as many books. I have so many books, as you can see, that I need to read. And also, my wallet does not like how many books I'm buying, so hopefully this will be the last one for a while, but let's just get into it. I have two separate piles here. One is a pile from Book Outlet, and then one is a pile of books that I bought on National Indie Bookstore Day. So I'm going to start with Book Outlet, I think. A lot of these books I do not know a lot of things about, so I'm going to say that in advance. I'm going to apologize in advance for that. Okay, first book, Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. I'm sorry if I can't say last names. I'm bad at saying last names. This is also like a Polish last name, and as someone with a Polish last name, I completely understand when people can't say my last name. So hopefully no one's offended. This book is a mystery that takes place in a remote Polish village. It follows the main character Janina, who devotes the dark winter days to studying astrology, translating the poetry of William Blake, and taking care of the summer homes of wealthy Warsaw residents. Her reputation as a crank and a recluse is only amplified by her not-so-secret preference for the company of animals over humans. Then a neighbor turns up dead. Soon, other bodies are discovered, in increasingly strange circumstances. As suspicions mount, Janina inserts herself into the investigation, certain that she knows who done it. If only anyone would pay her mind. I don't know why I got this. I think someone in a comment recommended this to me once because the name was familiar, and I want to read Polish books. I want to read more books from around the world in general, but my grandfather was Polish, so I feel a special affinity for the Poles, and I would like to read more Polish books specifically. So I picked this up. This is going to be my first ever Polish book. I'm very excited for it. Then I have Upstream by Mary Oliver. There's a collection of essays, and Mary Oliver, I'm pretty sure, is like a famous poet. I don't know anything about poetry, so don't make fun of me. But I thought it would be fun to read essays by a poet because I love the way a poet writes. I just can't quite get into poetry because I'm stupid, is really the short answer there. So this essays reflect on her willingness to lose herself within the beauty and mysteries of the natural world and the world of literature. I love that. I just love it. I'm excited to read it. This one's funny. Salt, A World History by Mark Kurlansky. This book's self-explanatory. It's a history of salt. I don't know why I am the way that I am, but something like this interests me. I like micro-history, like hyper-specific histories of like one specific thing. So yeah, the idea of a history of salt interests me. Sue me. Next we have We Spread by Ian Reid. Ian. Because of the way his name is spelled, I'm always tempted to say it a different way, but it is Ian. So this is We Spread by Ian Reid. This is a thriller, like psychological suspense novel, I think, and it follows a woman who has Alzheimer's, and that's really interesting to me just because I think it's an interesting like plot device for a thriller novel because you don't know if you can really trust what the main character thinks or not, but also because my grandmother has dementia, so I'm like especially interested in things like exploring memory loss. So yeah, I think this one will be good. Next we have A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This book follows a woman named Constanta who is transformed from a medieval peasant into a bride fit for an undying king, aka Dracula. This book follows a wife of Dracula. I don't know why vampires are like in again, but I'm totally into it. I've heard very good things about this, so I just can't wait to get into it. Then we have a book that I think I'm gonna hate, but I bought for a video, and that is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This book follows an assistant to the villain, and then she like falls in love with the villain. It's a romantasy. I want to do like a video where I read some romantasy books, so you're gonna get spoiled for like 3 of those 4 books here, but the 4th one will remain a mystery. If you want to see me read it, that will be coming at some point. I don't know when. Next book is Biography of X by Catherine Lacey. This book, first of all, is beautiful, and it's like a nice, it's like a hardcover, but there isn't any dust jacket. So this book takes place after X, who's an artist, Ryer. Oh my god, I can't speak all of a sudden. I'm trying to do better, I promise. So this book takes place after X dies, and X was like a very famous artist, writer, and polarizing shapeshifter. I'm just gonna continue like I didn't completely fuck up the English language there. It takes place after she dies and her widow goes wild with grief, and she tries to write a biography of her. But the thing about her is that she's very mysterious and not much is known about her. So it kind of follows her widow as she's like thrown into her history, I guess. I've heard very good things and I'm interested. This is a book I bought purely based off of vibes, and that is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. I just love this cover. I just really die for an oil painting type cover, so that's why I bought this book. I don't know anything about it, and that's all I'm gonna say. Next is another romantasy that I know nothing about, The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. That's all I'm gonna say. Next is another romantasy that I know nothing about, and that is Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. And that's all I'm going to say. Next is a book that I know a little bit about, but not a lot. I'm just very excited about it. And that is Rouge by Mona Awad. This book is the whole reason I did the book outlet order. I would get really bored in my liberal law class, and I would just sit there on book outlet and window shop kind of, and just continue adding things to my cart over and over and over. But then I saw this book, and then I actually had to buy it because I love Mona Awad based off of the one book that I read by her. I want to read everything that she writes. And this one I know explores the toxic beauty industry, so those two things together, sign me up. Sign me the fuck up. This one book, I said previously that there are 2 stacks. This book doesn't fit into either one, so I'll just go at it in the middle. Children of Dune by Frank Herbert. This is the 3rd book in the Dune series, which if you don't know, I really don't want to describe it, but I will try my best for you. Dune essentially follows the House of Atreides, what about the House of Atreides? Basically, they're given ownership over the planet of Arrakis. Arrakis is known for spice, which people harvest on the planet, and which kind of is a reason that people can travel intergalactically, and it causes also certain people to have visions and mythical powers, the whole thing. Atreides family takes over Arrakis from the Harkonnens, but then they were betrayed, and Paul Atreides, who's the son of the Lord Atreides, escapes with his mother, and they go to stay with the native people of Arrakis, whose names I'm forgetting. How am I forgetting that? The Freemen. And that's where the story starts in book 1. This is book 3, so I can't tell you anything that happens in book 2 because everything goes completely off plot from the first book. So I want to continue reading Dune though. I'm going to finish it one day. So then we can get into the books that I bought from local indie bookstores. So I'm going to start with the nonfiction because there's 3 nonfiction here. The first of which is Hamas by Paola Caridi. Paola, I apologize. Paola Caridi. Oh my god, Sabrina, I can't speak. It's not just that I can't say her name, it's that I can't speak today, at all. I filmed a whole nother video before this, and I was completely fine, by the way, so I don't know what's happening to me right now. Next is Hamas by Paola Caridi. This book's self-explanatory. It's a history of Hamas. Obviously, things are happening in Palestine right now, which are just terrible and awful. I'm trying to stay more informed. I'm trying to learn more about the situation so I can speak more authoritatively on it. And something that often comes up is critiques of Hamas, calling them terrorists. And I figured if I read this book, then I can really come back at people who say shit like that. So here I am. This is a book I don't know anything about. That is Black Shirts and Reds by Michael Parenti. This is about rational fascism and the overthrow of communism. So what I know about this book is it talks a lot about fascism, which is obviously a hot topic right now because it exists in America and it's awful, and I want to learn more. And I feel like I've just seen this referenced a lot as kind of a very popular communist text to read, so I want to stay up to date. Then the next one has nothing to do with anything that I've spoken about so far, and that is Gateway to Freedom, The Hidden History of the Underground Railroad by Eric Foner. This one's self-explanatory. I want to learn more about the Underground Railroad. I'm ashamed to say that when I read The Underground Railroad by, what is his name, Colson Whitehead or something like that, in that book it imagines the Underground Railroad as an actual railroad, and for a second when I read that I was like, wait, that's not right? Just the absolute stupidest moment of my life, where I actually had to Google and make sure that it wasn't a real railroad. So I figure my education in that field is sorely lacking, so I should read more about it. Then we get to the weird little books that I bought, which I was very excited. I went to this one bookstore that I've never really bought books at before, and they had quite a selection of weird books, which made me really psyched. So I didn't know anything about any of these books before I bought them, except for one, and I can't really describe a lot of them, so I will do my best. First, I got a couple New York Times review books. Where are those? The first of which is Down Below by Leonora Carrington. This book sounded really interesting. So on the book, it talks about how Leonora Carrington is one of the greatest 20th century painters. of the weird, the alarming, and the wild. And she was a 19-year-old art student in London when she met Mark Ernst and fell in love with them. And they departed to live together in a farmhouse in Provence. And then the invading German army arrested him in 1940 and sent him to a concentration camp, and she had a psychotic breakdown. She then fled to Spain, and eventually she was in a mental institution. So this is like her own story of all of that. What I just thought was really interesting. I feel like, I don't know, like I've read a lot of stories about people who have been in concentration camps, but I haven't really read a lot of stories about like people who had loved ones who went there, if that makes sense. Like, it's not like it's like, oh my god, we need to hear the voice of these people, but it's still like a worthy voice to be heard. So I am interested in this. I think it's gonna be a nice little book, but not nice. That's not the word I would use to describe the person whose love went to a concentration camp and then had a mental breakdown. I think it's gonna be an interesting read. That's what I will say. The other New York Times review, that's what it said, right? New York Review of Books, not New York Times, New York Review of Books. The other one I bought is A Skin of Dreams by Raymond Queneau. This book just sounded very like surrealist, which is the reason I bought it. The back says, The Skin of Dreams is a novel of waking dreams. Even as he lives his life, Jax, its hero, daydreams 100 other possible lives. A few lines on a page, a chance encounter, a remark overheard in passing. Any of these are enough to kick things into gear and send him off outside of himself to become a boxer, a general, a bishop, or a lord. He lives alongside his life with diligence and steadfastness, and the passage from real to dream is so natural for him that he no longer knows precisely which him he is. Eventually he becomes an actor in Hollywood and the basis of countless dreams for others. I don't know, it just sounded really interesting and weird, so I had to pick it up. Then, which book should I go into next? This was the one closest to me, so I'll go into this one next. This is The Kite by Romain Gary. This is another World War II book, which I didn't really think about until right now. This book follows a young boy named Ludo who falls in love with a girl named Lila, who is from an aristocratic Polish family. And just as Lila begins to reciprocate feelings for him, her family goes missing, and his devotion to saving her from the Nazis becomes a journey to save his love, his loved ones, his country, and ultimately himself. I don't know, it just seemed like a very touching book. It sounded interesting, so I wanted to pick it up, and I can't lie, I really wanted it because of the cover. I don't know what it is about this cover, but I really like it. So, you can't see the books right next to me, but they come up to like right here. Things You May Find Hidden in My Ear by Mossab Abu Toa. This is a poetry collection from a Palestinian poet. That's why I picked it up. That's why I'm excited to read it. I'm not a big poetry bitch. I gotta say that. I really want to be one though. Like, I want to like poetry, and I think if this is like at all political, I have a greater chance of liking it because of who I am as a person. So I wanted to give this one a shot. Next, we have Hit Parade of Tears by Izumi Suzuki. This is a collection of short stories, and they're supposed to be very weird. Izumi Suzuki had ideas about doing things differently. Ideas that pay little attention to the laws of physics or the laws of the land. In this new collection, her skewed imagination distorts and enhances some of the classic concepts of science fiction and fantasy. I'm in. Sign me up. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I'm not a big lover of short stories, but I'm trying to be one. So, I want to read it. This one also sounded weird, and that is Revenge of the Scapegoat by Karen Bellin. This book, I just need to read you the back. I'm so sorry that I keep reading you the back of books. I just need to read it for this one. One day, Iris, an adjunct at a city arts college, receives a terrible package. Recently unearthed letters that her father wrote to her in her teens, in which he blames her for their family's crises. Driven by the raw fact of receiving these devastating letters not once but twice in a lifetime, and in a panic of chronic pain brought on by rheumatoid arthritis, Iris escapes to the countryside, or some absurdist version of it. Nazi cows, Picasso's use as tampons, and a pair of arthritic feet that speak in the voices of Flaubert's, Bouvard, and Pichet. Oh, Sabrina. You're struggling today. Let's just get past it. Our standard fare in this beguiling novel of odd characters, surprising circumstances, and intuitive leaps, all brought together in profoundly serious ways. So it just sounds super fucking weird. And that's why I picked it up. Next, this book is a little bit more of a somber note. A Death, Note of a Suicide by Zalman Schnoer. This book is like a Jewish story. I think it was originally written in Yiddish. Yeah. And it's a dark, expressionist love affair that develops into a large, unnamed Eastern European city between the young, impoverished, and violently self-loathing teacher and a hungry, spiteful, and unsettling sensual revolver. Jesus Christ. That sounds dark as hell. That's why I picked it up. And the last book I have for you today is Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. I don't know if that's how you say her last name. I'm sorry. I'm just struggling today, okay? Rhys? I don't know. I'm so sorry. So, this book follows Antoinette Causeway, who's born into an oppressive colonialist society, and then meets a young Englishman who's drawn to her innocent sensuality and beauty. After they're married, disturbing rumors begin to circulate, poisoning her husband against her. Caught between his demands and her own precarious self of belonging, Antoinette is driven towards madness. This, I'm pretty sure, is like a prequel to Jane Eyre. I love Jane Eyre. I can't help it. I've always wanted to read this though, and I think I'm going to really love it. So I had to get it as soon as I saw it. And that, my friend, right? You can't see it. I swear it's a huge stack of books. You're just going to have to believe me. Because if I pick it up, it's going to fall everywhere. Those are all the books that I bought recently. Hopefully they're the last books I buy for a while. Hopefully I get to all of them soon. I love all of them. Let me know if you've read any of these books below, especially some of the weirder ones, because I've never heard anything about like most of them. So I'd definitely be interested if you had any thoughts. Also, let me know which one I should pick up first and which books you've bought recently, because I would love to know. I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye.